Welcome to Wax and Relax Vinyl Listening Room. I'm John, and it's St. Patrick's Day season. So, for those of us who are plastic mix, this is the season to celebrate and to get into our Irish music. Plastic Mick, that is an American that was born in America and has either an MC or an O apostrophe or some sort of Irish heritage, and we just play it up as if, pride of ownership. But hey, it's what we do. So I figured St. Patrick's Day is coming up, and we would talk about some Irish stuff and talk about Irish music and some Irish records. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 10 records that are going to be awesome for your St. Patrick's Day playlist. Then we're going to talk about some other stuff as well, and we're going to go all over the place. I'm going to throw in some other things that are kind of interesting as well. So as far as Irish music goes, I'm going to start with the granddaddy of them all, because if you've ever been to an Irish pub or when you were in grade school, they probably had you sing the Unicorn Song. And that comes from this 1967 record from the Irish Rovers, one of the most well-known Irish pub bands. They're actually from Toronto, born in Ireland, but from Toronto. And this thing was all over the place. And you can still get this for just a couple of bucks at most record stores. Number 2 for your playlist for St. Patrick's Day. Ah, yes. Shipping up to Boston. This is Dropkick Murphys, The Warrior's Code. This one actually came from Amazon, so it is readily available. You probably can get it in time for the high holiday. And great stuff, Irish punk rock. One of the great things that they do is, ever since COVID, is they always did these live streaming broadcast, because everyone was shut in. And they were so successful that they just keep doing it. So every time now they play a show on St. Patrick's Day, it's available for live stream. So yeah, 2005, Warrior's Code by Dropkick Murphys. Next, we're going to the granddaddies of traditional Irish music, the Chieftains. This is Chieftains 4, and this came out in 1973. This is where they really solidified what became their sound, and this is kind of a great starting point. So this is one of their most popular records, and a lot of great things happened for them around this time. This is where their first U.S. tour happened, and while they were out in San Francisco, they were invited by Jerry Garcia to be the opening act for his band, not the Grateful Dead, but for Old and in the Way. Old and in the Way is Jerry Garcia's bluegrass band. They played at the boarding house in 1973, invited the Chieftains to come along, and Bear Owsley, the sound man for the Dead, recorded the whole night. And so this came out, it was recorded in 73, it came out in 75, and up until Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, it became the most popular bluegrass album, or best-selling bluegrass album of all time. Massive record, if you ever get a chance to check it out. Great stuff. But it was a really, really important night, and Bear did record the Chieftain set earlier in the night. And that actually just was released not long ago, within the last year or 2 or 3. It's called The Chieftains Live in San Francisco, boarding house, October 1st, 1973. Live recording by Owsley Stanley. So yeah, Chieftains. Definitely some cool stuff. If you get a chance, check this out. This I was able to locate. It's actually brand new. So one of the few classic records like that I was able to get as a new piece. So cool stuff. Alright, next, going back a little more towards the punky stuff, you gotta have some Pogues. I mean, this year at Christmas time, I heard Fairy Tale of New York more than any other year prior. And as you get closer to St. Patrick's Day, you're going to hear Dirty Old Town quite a bit. In fact, I recently started playing the bowran, which is the Irish drum, and had sat in with my daughter's Irish band, and actually we'll be playing a couple shows with them coming up during the good season, and actually played 2 songs off of this record. But yeah, some Pogues. This is actually a best of. This is actually for all from the first 5 albums, which are the ones that featured Shane MacGowan. They were actually formed in London, but definitely an Irish band. So if you're going to talk Dropkick Murphys, you're going to talk the Pogues, you also have to talk about Flogging Molly. They actually were formed in LA, but they, again, are definitely an Irish band. Actually, we were supposed to play locally a week or two ago, but something happened with Dave, and they had to cancel the rest of the tour. But this one is definitely one of my favorites. Flogging Molly, Drunken Lullabies. Now, funny thing about Flogging Molly was they were formed by Dave King. Dave King, at the age of 19, formed a band with Fast Eddie Clarke from Motorhead and Pete Way from UFO. And at 19, he was a singer in Fastway. So who knew that there was a connection between Flogging Molly and Motorhead? And it happened by way of Fastway. All right, next up. Chieftains kind of creep into a lot of different stuff here, but they collaborated with a lot of people. So in 1988, they did this. This is Van Morrison and the Chieftains, Irish Heartbeat. For me, back in the 80s, this was one of my first Irish records that I actually purchased. It was on CD when I got it, but when I found this not long ago on vinyl, I had to jump on it. Still a great listen. There's some really, really classic stuff on here. I love the version of the Star of the County Down, and She Moved Through the Fair is outstanding as well. If you like Van Morrison, you'll love that, and it definitely goes well for your St. Patrick's Day when you're having a Guinness. So what do we got next? Another 1988 record. This is the fourth record from this particular band. Formed in Scotland, but they were formed with members from Scotland, Ireland, and Wales. This is the Waterboys. Fisherman's Blues. Every year, this is on my playlist. And this year, I have played this record more than in any year prior. Pretty much like the whole month of February, just getting ready for the holiday. And yeah, definitely one of my favorites as well. All right, so we talked about the Chieftains. One of the other big, more like pub style bands were the Dubliners. The Irish flag right there on the front. Great picture from 1967. This is their fourth record, because their first three of them were actually live recordings. And that happens a lot with the Irish pub bands, is that's where they're best, is live in front of a crowd that's, drinking whiskey and drinking beer and singing along and hooting and hollering. But this is their fourth record, first studio one. And if you're looking for something in the short term, you can grab this for $19 or so on Amazon. This is a Dubliners greatest hits. Great listen. This will get you through 45 minutes of any St. Patrick's Day party. So keep going back to the Chieftains. This one is a little bit different. This is with James Galway, who is a classical flautist. Definitely an Irish guy. And so he brings them kind of to a different place with this. It's a little more mellow than the other stuff. So for years as a DJ, especially during the month of March, this was always the dinner music that I played. So, if you're looking for something for your party, while you're serving your corned beef and cabbage and shepherd's pie and whatnot, this is great dinner music that's, familiar, and it's not just super backgroundy, it's definitely authentic. So, and again, this one I have seen several times pop up, usually, under $5 type of thing. So if you find it, definitely invest in it. All right, so this next one, this is going to be interesting discussion. This is the Clancy Brothers and Tommy Makem. The Clancy Brothers, they formed in New York City. They're Irish. They originally moved to Toronto, then to Cleveland, and then ended up in New York City, met up with Tommy Makem. They formed this group, and for all intents and purposes, this happened when the folk boom happened. Folk boom happened in the early 60s, and for some reason, Carnegie Hall was the place where all the big acts played, because you had some of those clubs in Soho that where all the folk stuff was happening, but the bigger acts tended to play in Carnegie Hall. And so this one is from '63, but in '67 they did another one, Carnegie Hall. This one's called the Clancy Brothers and Tommy Makem in concert. This one's obviously in person at Carnegie Hall. But, you know, again, going back to those early 60s in Carnegie Hall, all those big things were happening. I talked about this not long ago, Flat and Scruggs at Carnegie Hall. Not an Irish record, but, you know, just getting the point across that this was pre-Beatles. So, you know, at the time, you know, anything folky was worth talking about. And it also happened at the same time, you know, 1961, that's when JFK came to national prominence, and he kind of boosted the whole Irish thing. People absolutely went crazy for anything Irish. So Irish folk music, hell yeah. America was all over it. This is one of the earlier Clancy Brothers and Tommy Makem records. This one is called Hardy and Hellish. This is at a smaller club, and kind of what I was talking about before about the Dubliners, the live records being from a pub or a club. That's more of the speed of what this is. Now the other thing is, the picture right there. They made popular the Aran jumper, or in the States we call them sweaters. I got one. They are those cream-colored cable net sweaters that you saw all over the place in the 60s and 70s. A lot of times the fishermen would wear them, you know, with the black fishing cap. They're made in the Aran Islands, which is a little small group of islands right off the coast of Galway. And they were super popular. I had to have one because I'm a plastic Mick. All right, so let's talk about, that's my 10. So let's talk about some other things. No, not done with the Clancy Brothers. This one has several different covers. This one's Irish drinking songs. This one tends to be a little more political. This is Rising of the Moon, Irish Songs of Rebellion. It's famous for having Liam Clancy's version of Foggy Dew. Definitely worth checking out. Okay, so now we're going to talk about, those are the 10. So now we're going to talk about some other things. Let me grab all these here. I'm going to talk about a little bit about traditional music. So this is where it's definitely melody driven, where a lot of the instruments are playing the same melody, a lot like what you would hear at like a traditional session if you were at a pub and you had that circle of people doing their thing. One of the most popular ones, Planxty. Planxty. Definitely some cool stuff. By the way, I mentioned a little bit ago about playing the Bowron. That is a Bowron right there, that drum that Christy Moore is playing. Although he's playing it standing up. Most of us sit down to play it. Anyway, this one, this particular record here is considered one of the best traditional albums of all time. This is a 1975 debut album by the Bothy Band. Got another Bothy Band record here. And this one I had been looking for quite a while. And I found it on Discogs, only to find out that it's at a local record store. One I used to work in back in the 80s and 90s, called Bananas Records. So I went down today and I was able to see my old boss and my friend Michelle Allen. She's one of the owners there, she and her husband Doug. And I was able to find this. So thank you very much, Michelle. Played it today when I got home. Fantastic. Another traditional Irish band, Dedanin. This is Anthem. Very cool stuff. A couple of compilations that I was able to locate. This is the Feast of Irish Folk and another Feast of Irish Folk. I don't know what happened here. This one was on a major label on Polydor. By the time they did the second project, it was on Peters International. But yeah, definitely some cool stuff. And a lot of the stuff that we've already talked about are on these records. Definitely worth looking up if you can find them. And I also found this one. I thought this was pretty cool. Irish Traditional Instrumental Music from the East Coast of America, Volume 1. So this is a fun listen to as well. A lot more, for lack of a better word, unknown. I'm not familiar with any of the artists on here, but this was a great listen. Very cool. So now we're going to take the lid off. I'm going to talk about Irish pop and rock music. Again, mix some of these in on your playlist. Some, the pub stuff, the traditional stuff, and the rock and pop stuff. Talked about Simply Red in the past. This is the one I've been waiting for. It was never released on LP. It was one of those that came out in the CD age. So it just came out last month, and it was only available through the band. So I was able to get that important record in our house because the very, the first song on side 2 was the very last song played on my wedding. And yeah, that song has resonated as a very special song in our family. I don't have Irish Tour 74, but I do have this one by Rory Gallagher, Sinner and Saint. Famous Irish guitar player, kind of in the blues rock, sort of a Hendrix disciple type of thing. I would be remiss if I didn't discuss one of my favorite bands, Thin Lizzy. I'm showing this one because it's got Royce and Dub on it. This is Black Rose by Thin Lizzy. The song Black Rose, a rock legend, is definitely worth putting on your playlist. It talks about all sorts of Irish stuff. It has a lot of the traditional melodies woven into it. Gary Moore does a masterful job on this record. And he also mentions a lot of things like writers and athletes, and it's almost like a 9-minute history of Ireland and pop culture up till 1979. And, Phil's voice, can't beat it. Thin Lizzy also did a cover of, well, I don't know if you want to call it a cover, they did a version of one of the old traditional Irish pub songs, Whiskey in a Jar. And that version, their arrangement of it was the one that Metallica covered when they did it on their Garage Day stuff. So, there's that hook up there. You knew this one was coming. Or by U2. U2, obviously one of the most popular Irish rock and pop bands of all time. This is my favorite U2 record. Starts out with Sunday Bloody Sunday, which, it's basically discussing the Bloody Sunday attacks on January 30, 1972. That subject has been discussed a lot in song. You had McCartney, Second Wings single was Give Ireland Back to the Irish, and then Lennon at the same time on Sometime in New York City, 2 songs regarding it, Sunday Bloody Sunday and Luck of the Irish. So definitely a topic, that was one of the darkest days in Irish history. And there's a lot of music about it. If you look that up, the list is endless. I just wanted to touch on a couple of things that talked about that. There was 2 Bloody Sundays. The other one was November 21st, 1920. And that is, if you watch the movie Michael Collins with Liam Neeson, that tells the whole story about Michael Collins. And the first Bloody Sunday in 1920 is discussed by the Cranberries. A song you've probably heard a million times and didn't realize it was Zombie. And in the movie, there's a very tasteful use of some of the songs that Sinead O'Connor did with the Chieftains. And unfortunately on vinyl, that stuff is missing in action because it came out on The Long Black Veil by the Chieftains, and that never made it over to vinyl that I can find anyway. So that's kind of lost to the CD age. Another thing missing in action is Black 47. Black 47, cool Irish rock band. The only thing on vinyl is a 1997 inch, but Black 47 is in reference to the 1847 was the worst year during the famine and the plague. That was the biggest drop in the Irish population in history. That much death as a result of that famine. Interesting thing about Black 47 is they had a song called Big Fella. Didn't realize until I was watching the movie Michael Collins that's what they were talking about, was Michael Collins' nickname was the Big Fella. And that one's always on my playlists. And that I first heard from Sons of Anarchy when they first land in Belfast, and they're on their way to the Belfast clubhouse. They're playing that song, and it's fantastic. So that one gets a lot of play. But again, lost to the CD age, so we don't see that one anytime soon. Another one that that we don't get on vinyl is the Saw Doctors, another Irish group. I've never seen anything out in the wild, but apparently their first album may or may not be available somewhere on vinyl. It had 2 singles on it, I Used to Love Her and N17, which is a song I really dig. The album is called If This Is Rock and Roll, I Want My Old Job Back. If you see a Saw Doctors record, let me know. Another one missing in action, Boomtown Rats. I haven't gotten any because I just haven't gone down that rabbit hole yet. So that is going to do it for my St. Patrick's Day listening list. Those 10 things I talked about and some of the other things you can add to it. Maybe I'll put together a playlist and share it. If I do, it'll be in the comments or in the description. If not, then just go back and play the video again and take some notes and set up your own. But have a great and happy St. Patrick's Day. Get yourself a little Tullamore Dew. Sons to you, my brother Patrick. Sláinte.